I don't know about you, but I keep thinking to myself like, man, if I just had a little bit more time in the day, like I could get way more done. And while time management might be a part of the problem of, why I don't get things done, another huge part of the equation that I completely missed was this thing called energy management. And the reason why this is so crucial is because time is finite, like it's fixed. We have a certain amount in our day and that's all we get. But energy is not, it's renewable. I discovered this last week when I was researching for a video. I came across this site that said, time management is really, really great, but you should also learn how to manage your energy. And it completely blew my mind. In my mind, I was like, okay, I knew that, we have these emotional or these emotional, mental, physical, spiritual gas tanks, as it were, and that they slowly deplete throughout the day as you use them. But it never even entered my mind that, one, I could make the gas tanks bigger and be able to hold more energy, and two, that running out of gas energy wasn't a inevitable result of my day. That was completely beyond my comprehension. So currently I'm in the dead center and the thralls of learning this skill set, because it is a skill set. Energy management is something that you learn, and as you learn, you get better at it, or as you don't learn, you get worse at. And so because I am kind of in the middle of this, I wanna share with you kind of some of the things that I learned and some of the things that I'm trying to apply now. I've divided my findings into 3 categories. Those are systems, physiology, and recovery. So let's take a look at what systems are. I define this as an organized framework or method. By far one of the best ways to preserve energy is to build systems into your day. This especially removes mental strain because it kind of builds a framework and a structure around the process, making it more manageable. Mental systems are kind of like habits, basically. So for example, I have a system for how I make all of my videos. It's pretty basic. It just schedules out what each day is divided into and what needs to happen on that day so that I know at the end of the week, I have a video or 2 videos or 3 videos. And it takes the weekly manual planning out of it, because I wake up Monday and I'm like, okay, Monday is this, this, and this. That's just what I do, and it works. It's really nice because it's actually prevented me from, waking up Wednesday with absolutely nothing and be like, oh man, I forgot about that, because that's a problem. We have systems for all kinds of stuff. Your morning routine, or your lack of morning routine, builds a framework around your morning that gives it structure. And this allows for little to no decision making. You just get up, do your thing, do the other thing, pull that lever, push that thing around in your mouth for a while, and then you just go to work. A massive part of productivity I'm figuring out is just systems and learning how to operate systems well and critique them and fine tune them to fit what you need them to do. And it's not always super flashy, keep a schedule. That's boring. It's yeah, but it works. So our brains are better at some things than other things, and schedules, to-do lists, calendar, events, things like that. Our brains really just aren't that great at it. So it's you just build a system for it to hold all of that for you, and you rely on that system, and it takes all of that mental strain out of your mind. You don't have to hold it. It's not like pop-ups and tasks open in your mind. You can close all those, focus on what you're focusing on, because you know that you can rely on that system. It's the whole David Allen Getting Things Done, I think is what it's called. They take it really, really far to completely systematize almost everything. And okay, it works. It's really awesome. I just never really took the time to do it. I just kind of implemented what worked for me, and didn't take time to do a full, life deface. And when I was finding all this stuff, I was kind of hey, okay, I know how to do systems. I kind of know about that. It's kind of a big productivity thing. You just kind of need to do it. But it got me thinking, it's what in my life that I haven't even considered could I systematize? It's just kind of got the wheels turning. So I'm still kind of figuring that out and figuring out okay, what else can I systematize to make this, to take more strain off of me? And something that was recommended to me that I should do was an energy audit. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. What's that? An energy audit is where you take inventory of all of your tasks and everything that you do for a certain amount of time, usually a week to 3 weeks, and you rate it as far as what level of energy consumption did this take, or did it give me energy? Did it bring back energy? And this particular system that I stumbled across used the numbers -2, -1, +1, and +2. And they go kind of like this. -2 is like that you dread doing these things. They drain you, you're exhausted and frustrated and annoyed after doing them, and you try to avoid them at all costs. -1 is tolerable, but it still drains you. You wouldn't want to do it for a very extended period of time. +1, it's energizing. It doesn't deplete your energy. In fact, it gives back a little bit. And then +2 is through the roof. I mean, you live for these things. They're extremely energizing and you just love doing them. And what this does is it helps you determine what energizes and like pulls away from your energy, and then what areas you need to focus on and systematize. And in this particular program, the person said that, you know, you should try to, when possible, like not everybody has control over their schedule, obviously, but when possible, you should eliminate, delegate, or systematize. And even if you don't end up, you know, directly applying all of those things, it's still very helpful to understand what is pulling you, what's draining you, what's re-energizing you, and even just that information alone will dramatically help. Another way that I personally have done this is I hired an editor to do some of my video editing. And at first it was like, okay, yeah, this is great, it's gonna save me time. But then I realized I was like, whoa, like this saves me time and a lot of energy because editing is very draining. A little bit of a recap here. So we're going to preserve energy by defining what drains us and then either eliminating, delegating, or building a system to make those unpleasant things more manageable. The next category is physiology, and I define this as the way in which we use our bodies. Did you know that if you think that you're tired, you'll end up being tired? It's kind of weird, but we've all experienced this, you know, where you go to sleep and you think that you get like a solid, you know, 8-9 hours of sleep, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And then later on in the day, you realize like, you know, check your sleep tracker or whatever, it's like, whoa, I got like 6 hours of sleep, but you feel great. And then all of a sudden you're tired. It's like, okay, that's kind of weird. Or maybe at the end of the day, it's a long day of work and you know, you're drained, you're tired, you're ready to be done, you're kind of frustrated. You go home and like, boom, you know, like surprise party, or like, you know, a significant other or best friend comes and surprises you, and they drag you off to go do something exciting and fun. And the rest of the evening, you're excited, you're energized, you're happy. It's like, okay, how did that happen? You know, who gave you that energy? Who decided that you were gonna be energized? The answer is you did that. And those are just some hypotheticals, but I know I've experienced this a lot, you know, where I think I'm drained and then something happens, it's just like boom, and it just goes away. It's weird. And at this point I was like, oh boy, are you gonna sit here and tell me to be like, you know, I'm not tired, I'm not tired, I'm not tired or something? No, because our brains are amazing at picking out incongruency. You know, when you're out like in the cold and you're like, I'm not cold, I'm not cold, I'm not cold, your brain's like, dummy, you're cold. So when we find ourselves snapping in and out of high energy mode, it's not because we tell ourselves, you know, hey, have more energy. And this is because our physiology has a lot more power over how we feel than a lot of us realize. So what we need to do is we need to get our physiology and our mind in congruency, so they're working together. And we do this by kind of tricking the brain a little bit. And here are two ways of how to do that. First way is internal representations. That is basically, it's what you're thinking. It's what you're seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, doing inside of your mind. The pictures that you have, what you hear, all those sort of things, that's an internal representation. Then you have external representation. And that is what you do with your physiology, your body. It's how you move, how you sit, how you act, how you breathe, how you walk, how you, like everything you do with your body. So the way we kind of do this, where we kind of trick ourselves a little bit, is we think of a specific time in our minds, a memory of when we were fully energized, a time when we were very engrossed in something, very engaged and focused, and we just had a ton of energy. We were just exuberant. And what we do is we want to fully associate ourselves with that memory. And basically, you know, put yourself back in that moment, in your shoes. What were you feeling? What were you thinking? What were you visualizing in your mind? You know, how were you breathing? How were you sitting, walking, standing? All these things. Just try to engage all of your senses, especially your visual senses, your auditory senses, and your feeling senses, like what you're kinesthetically feeling. All of the senses are important to engage, but those are the three most important ones. And what you'll notice is that as you do this, your physiology will actually begin to change to match that, to match what you're visualizing. And that is the congruency that we want between our mind and our bodies. And that feeling of energy will begin to trickle in to how you feel in that present moment. And the reason why this works is actually very simple, and it's actually really, really cool. And this is because our subconscious, which, you know, governs a lot of these things, you know, what we feel and what we, you know, our emotion and our behavior and things like that, it can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not real. This is why when you're sleeping, you can see a herd of, flying pigs and be like, huh, I didn't know pigs could play soccer. That is your subconscious thinking that image is totally real. And you're gonna feel that curiosity and all those things that go with that. Or if you take a moment to, engage with what it would be like to bungee jump, into the Grand Canyon or something, and fully engage what your senses would feel. What would the wind feel like on your face? All these things, your heart rate will elevate a little bit and you'll get that tingling in your feet. And so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to kind of trick our subconscious into believing that what we are remembering or visualizing and feeling, that's the congruency that we need in order for this to work, that is now in the present, and it'll actually begin to push that into the present moment of what you're feeling then. The goal here is to communicate in such congruency between our minds and our bodies that what we tell it to do, it just responds to instantly. External representations are very powerful and they're very quick. It's kind of similar, but it's kind of opposite. So I don't really have time to explain it actually in this video. I'll try to make another video about that sometime, but it's really interesting. And the reason why that works is because our brains and our bodies are kind of a two-way street. This has definitely worked for me like quite a bit, and pretty quickly as well. And not just with energy, with a lot of other things too. It definitely takes some practice, and it's not like a cure-all. It's not like something where it's like, oh, if you're feeling down or tired, it's just because you're not acting right, or whatever. It's like, no, maybe he hasn't slept in like 48 hours. That could be a possibility too. Learning how to do this communication, which in my personal opinion is one of the most important things you can learn, just like how to communicate to yourself with what you're feeling and thinking and all that stuff. But it definitely takes practice. It's not an instant process, although you can have instant results from it. But that's why I think internal representations is the best place to start, because it feels more natural. It has a lot of power. I will say that. The third category is recovery, and I define this as the process by which one fills their energy tanks. First thing I discovered right off the bat, like instantly, by almost everybody, was that it looks very different person to person, because energy is very subjective. People spend it differently and they use it differently, they rejuvenate differently, because they're very different personality types. Like one guy said he goes and hangs out with people when he's tired. Like, what's up with that? Like I try to find a cave when I'm tired. Like, no offense, but people aren't really my thing when I'm tired. It's just introverted stuff. Randomly, if you want to know more about what it's like to be introverted or whatever, and like how we recharge and all that fun stuff, I will link a video up here of me kind of talking about that, if you're curious how we introverted peoples interpret the world and stuff. So despite personality types and all that stuff, there are a few common traits that I do want to focus on. And this is why an energy audit is very important, because it'll give you that data of knowing where you're at with all of that. The first common thread that I discovered is that among the possibly the busiest and most successful people in the world, not all of them, but some of them, they take scheduled time to do absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. I know. It's like, whoa. Okay. And these are the people, the likes of, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, people like that. They have a lot on their plate. When I heard that, I kind of had two reactions. The first one was like, oh, sounds amazing. Like, I wish I could do that. And the second one was like, Austin, you can do that because they're way busier than you are. And so if they can do it, you definitely have time to do it. Don't kid yourself here. So I'm trying to find ways to place more importance on that, because yeah, if people like that are doing this, then they see value in it that I don't yet see. I see the value in it, but not to the level that they do, because to put that much importance on it, that they'll just completely set aside everything, be completely unreachable for certain chunks of their day and do nothing but think. It's like, whoa. Okay, they must place a lot of importance on that. The other fun little factoid that I found was that, hustle culture and people like, Dwayne Johnson and Arnold Schwarzenegger that are all like, you don't need sleep to be successful, and like, sleep 5 hours a night, you'll be fine. Sleep faster, man. Those kind of people with that opinion of sleep are wildly in the minority. I mean, don't you think it's interesting how like some of the most successful and most highly functional humans like in the world have sleep coaches? Like, take people like sports players and athletes, like professional athletes, like they're required to get certain amounts of sleep and they've been studied and analyzed to know exactly what is best. And I mean, they function at a level, like a mental and physical level, that is probably way beyond ours. And somehow we still think that we can get half as much sleep as them and still be fully functional and highly productive and all this stuff. And I'm just like, no. And again, the biggest things that I've found in the recovery phase is I need to know myself, like my limits and, you know, what drains and energizes me, but also I need to be incredibly intentional. Like that's the biggest thing that stuck out to me during this whole like research thing in recovery is it is like a big deal. And again, the people in the world that perform at the highest level, they take this extremely seriously and they are incredibly intentional. Like they're ruthless about it. Like it has to happen. And that's when I kind of realized like this is a non-negotiable thing if I want to actually live a life that I want to live. And the sooner I accept that, the sooner I'm gonna have more energy and the sooner I'm gonna get to where I'm going. And I went through this phase of like, you know, not sleeping enough and like, it was really bad for me. I got a lot of stuff done, but I look back at that and I'm like, like I could have gotten more done. I could have gotten more done if I had taken proper care of myself. If any part of you like resonates with that and you maybe don't get enough sleep and you want to figure out, okay, how do I get more sleep? Then I'll put a video in the center of the screen here that hopefully will help you with that process. Because I made a video series about that, of how I went about solving this problem and learning to get enough sleep.